Welcome to the Tanya Acker Show. My next guest has an acting career that has spanned nearly 35 years. And it is right now that she is enjoying her greatest success ever. Katherine LaNasa plays Nurse Dana on the phenomenally magnificent show, The Pitt, on Max. If you haven't seen it, you should watch the show. She's being talked about for an Emmy. The show is being not just celebrated by critics, but by critics and fans alike. I'm certainly one of them. I'm also a fan of Katherine's, and I'm also a great friend of Katherine's. We are good friends in real life, and it makes me so happy to see my friend enjoy the love that she is. I think you're going to like our conversation. Thank you for being here. Katherine LaNasa, welcome to my podcast, my friend.
Hi, Tanya. How you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. As I mentioned in the intro, you are somebody who I've known for quite some time, and it has been a joy for me to see how phenomenally successful your show, The Pitt, and your character in particular, Nurse Dana, has become. Are you surprised by the popularity of the show and of your character and your character specifically?
Yes. It was a real bucket list to work with John Wells, so I'm not surprised that John Wells and Noah Wiley and Scott Gemmell made something wonderful. But before the show aired, they showed us like 3 or 4 of them as they would come out, and we sweated every little thing. There was a scene. I was like, that scene looked like episodic. Everyone's going to tune out after that. Like every little thing. That intro was way too slow. Like we literally thought the show was hinging on all these little things, but the show had some kind of soul and spirit of its own. And it just sort of seemed like it just lit on fire. And it was amazing. I mean, it's goals to get on something where people love you and really respond to the work and to the show. And I just thought I would have to work harder for it. I think I'm so used to working really hard and having to be really scrappy that I was really surprised that just right out the gate, it really knocked my socks off.
And you may not say this, but I'll say it. There is Emmy talk about you and the show. I mean, Variety included you as a list of potential first-time Emmy contenders. You have been in this business for some time. You're not a newbie, but all of this is happening right now at this point in your career. Like, what does that feel like? Because I've known you for a long time. You have a solid history of work. I mean, you've been a working actor for some time, but nothing like this. I mean, this is not, this is the biggest, this is the most success that I think you've experienced. What does it feel like having that happen now at this point in your career?
It feels really good. It feels really relaxing. It's a weird thing to say. You know, I'd worked with some of the big boys before. You know, I've worked with Will Ferrell. I've worked with Robert Duvall and Billy Bob Thornton and Octavia Spencer. And so I've had some really big shots to do some good work with some really good creative people. So I'm glad that I have that under my belt because I feel like I was able to hold my own with those guys. So I had that confidence going into this. So it doesn't feel fragile. Like I'm not worried if I'll be able to live up to someone's expectation. You know, I've been doing it a long time, but it's actually oddly, I was really surprised. It was just like a warm bath. I really receive it. I mean, I could cry right now. Every time I think about it, it's just so lovely. It just feels so nice. You know, I think as an actor, people can lie, but you know, it's like, look at me. Did you see my thing? Did you like my thing? You like me? You know, the old Sally Field thing. And then everyone just showering you with, we love you. It feels so lovely. It's so nice. And it just kind of relaxing is the word. You're like, oh, it really sinks in that you're enough, you know, that it's enough. And it's a nice feeling.
What was it like when it didn't feel so nice? When you're going out on auditions and things aren't working out. I remember some of those moments with you. Can you talk a little bit about what the opposite feels like?
It was really hard for me to get established, but then kind of somewhere in my early 40s, I feel like I kind of took off and I was working on the heels of having done the campaign and I was kind of doing series after series and really enjoying that ride. And when COVID hit, it was really hard for people like me, journeyman actors that don't have a big name. We had established ourselves within the business where we might not have a big name that means a lot to a CEO or maybe the average person on the street. But the casting directors knew that we did solid work and we always work and we were always a supporting part of many, wonderful creative, shows and movies and things like that. But what happened was we had earned these spots. Like I would go into a room and audition for a director or producer. I'd be one of 10, 15, maybe 20 people that they were seeing for the role. And then there were the people that would get the role offered to them, right? And then there's this small pool of auditioners. And COVID sort of made that a cattle call. Now they didn't have to worry how someone was going to do when they came into the room. They could just edit them out. And they were seeing hundreds of tapes instead of auditioning, 10 to 20 people. And I really, it was really hard for me to break through. I felt like I was starting all over again. So the COVID period, and then, I'm going to talk about it in an episode of Women's Health, so I don't want to kind of spill the tea on that, but I had a big health issue at the same time. So it was really a hard moment the last 3 years before I got Dana. I mean, thanks to some of my friends like Megan Good and keeping me, in little roles and doing things with them. And, I got some offers on Daredevil and it's just some casting directors I've worked for before. Some people kept me afloat basically, but it's a really hard moment. And not to be too long-winded, but it was a test of faith. It's like on one level, I'm like, I still have this really beautiful life. I have my family. I have all this beauty in my world. I'm still a very privileged citizen of the world. And I didn't want to lose that. But it really felt like my life was a truck and I had just fallen off the back of it. It's like, what happened to healthy, always working Katherine?
You've talked about some of the people who you've worked with, who, by the way, are some of my favorites. Billy Bob Thornton. Do you watch Landman, by the way? Have you been watching that?
I have watched some Landman.
That's so
just
good.
Watched a little bit, but I need to get into it. I was on the nominating committee for SAG actually last year. I had to watch so much stuff that I couldn't get into like that many full series.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's always great.
He's so good. You've worked with Will Ferrell.
Yes.
Always funny. So putting your present castmates aside, who've been some of your favorite people to work with? Like who's like the best of the best?
I loved working with Billy Bob. I loved working with him as a director. He's very visual and he knows what he wants. You don't even rehearse. Like he tells you where you're going to go, what you're going to do. And he tells everybody, he'll be like, okay, so on action, I want you to look at Daddy. And then, and then say your line. And then go ahead and go. And then go pick up the piece of paper on the desk. And then look at Kevin. And then, you know what I mean? And he would just he would say something like that. And then he would tell everybody their thing. Like, okay, I'm actually going to take this candle. You're going to light that candle with your candle. And I remember sitting there and I was on the couch and I was like smoking a cigarette. And then the camera came around. I got to my part and I thought, well, good, I feel like getting up and going. But I was like, he didn't say get up and go. He said, just do this. So that was really cool. I like working with different people that work in different ways because it gives me more flexibility. Like with Billy, you just had to relax because you weren't going to have any autonomy about what you did in the scene. He's so visual that he sees the scene beforehand and you just need to fit into the scene. So it's this ultimate relaxation. I loved it too. I just loved, sometimes you just have a simpatico or a taste with somebody and you get it and you get what they want. And, they love working with you and you love working with them because you just know how to fulfill their vision. So it was very much like that with him. And I also really loved working with John Cusack. I'm almost completely cut out of this movie that he did called The Frozen Ground, but I played his wife in it. And he was like a great dance partner. I just feel like John Cusack just like picks you up and he spins you around and then he just throws you, he throws you back out. You don't really know what happened, but it was great. Like you just let go into John Cusack and it's going to be a great scene. There's a lot. I like working with all kinds of people like Octavia Spencer. She doesn't do a lot of ad-libbing. It's really kind of like was very kind of on the money, just very strict, but she's so present and so honest in everything that she does that you just feel like these laser beams are coming through you. So it's almost like she's this filter where you have to be completely present and completely honest to work with her. So I've enjoyed just so many of my castmates. Yeah.
Now you are really a part of an ensemble.
Yes.
And what comes across on screen is this incredible chemistry. And I think some of that is of necessity, right? Because you're playing people who are a part of this unit, this ER, this emergency room that sort of has to operate on many levels at once. What's your dynamic? What's the dynamic like on set? Because all of the scenes seem so frenetic. What's the energy like on the set?
It's very alive. Like, we work really hard. Like, we stand up and work all day. In fact, like, if you're in every scene of the day, you might stand up and work for like 3 hours and then maybe have like a short break and then work for another few hours and then have lunch and then come back and sort of just rinse and repeat. It's not a traditional way of shooting in the sense that we don't block a scene and then spend 40 minutes sitting in the cast chairs while they light everything. The whole space is pre-lit. And they do some minor adjustments and they have some little tricks that they do to, like, tweak the lighting a tiny bit. But they maybe spend 10 minutes or so on that, and we kind of stand around and run through the shot with the cameras. All the cameras are handheld. There's no tripod. So there's not a lot of prep time. That's a lot of kind of, let's get this and go. Okay, well, then maybe I can take this into that, and just making it work right on the spot. It's very rigorous.
The show also has these moments that really just pop. I mean, no joke. And this is a spoiler for people who haven't watched it yet. If you're one of the 5 people in the country who's not yet watched The Pitt, close your ears. But when you got punched, my husband and I are watching the show. I screamed at the television, and I was ready to go find that dude. There's so much high drama, but I have to think that when you guys are working at such a pitched level, that there have to be really funny moments too. So tell me a funny story on set.
Funny story on set. We work with Donahue and Whitaker. And they've just become darker now. The funniest moments that were happening to me at the beginning of the show. So they're very sort of strict. They want us to know all our lines before we get there. We have no sides. For people who don't know what sides are, they're like little mini pages. They're about this big, script pages, and they have what you're going to shoot that day. So we're not allowed those. Almost every production in the country has sides, but we don't have any sides. So we have to be off book when we get there to know everything. And I'm really disciplined, but I guess it was my age. I had to start taking ginkgo biloba and fish oil. I would just kind of space out before like the very beginning, or I would start with like the wrong. And one time I was calling Whitaker. I was like, Whitaker. But I was like, Whitaker, Donaker. And it just kept going. And so then Noah finally, I was like, Donahue, Donaker, Whitaker. I said like 4 different things, and then Noah decided they were both named Donaker. So from now on, they're Donaker, Donahue, and Donahue. But I know, but one time, like, some funny stuff, like, so we have like all this sensitive nudity, right? That's appropriate for the scenes. And it's all really kind of low key. There's like intimacy coordinators and they just will make sure the people are comfortable, but there's not a lot of announcing what's going on now. It's also sort of low key. So we'll rehearse, and then they remove whatever gown or whatever it is. And I was running through this scene, and, I'm in the middle of the scene, and I just realized I've got like just a whole bunch of male junk, like right there. I'm looking right at it, right in my face in the scene. And I'm like, okay. I don't know, because he didn't announce to me the guy's going to be naked, right? It's just I got there, and I'm doing.
Like, surprise!
Yeah, stuff like that. Or like, I remember when we were in Pittsburgh, I had one scene. They flew me to Pittsburgh to do one line in one scene. It's like, Robbie, got a college kid, respiratory distress, coming in hot. This is before I started taking the fish oil. And so it's incel kid runs out, then Robbie runs out after him, then I run out after Robbie. And he starts having a flashback, right? So there's a lot going on. One person runs, the other person runs, and then it's my turn. They're like, go, Katherine. And I start running out, and I'm like, I wonder what his name is. Not Noah, that's his real name. This is like slow motion, like a car crash, the cameras are rolling. John Wells is there. We're all shooting, and I'm like, I wonder how this is going to go. And then like my right foot landed and my left foot landed, and I was like, Robbie. It came out. Like, I don't know how. I don't know. Like Zoe Kravitz when she saved the day at if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert,
studio. Yeah. I was as surprised as anybody.
That's a good show too. Is there someone with whom you haven't worked as an actor that you'd really like to work?
God, there's so many good people. I really love Kate Winslet. She's so wonderful. I really love Olivia Colman. I think like every time you see like Javier Bardem, he's amazing. Amy Adams, there's just so many really, really wonderful actors out there. I mean, you go through these little phases. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of really obsessed with Javier Bardem right now, but I'm always obsessed with Kate Winslet. I just think she's the gold standard. She's probably my favorite actress.
Why did you decide to become an actor?
I was a dancer first. My strength was really my acting. My strength was really my ability to communicate with audiences. I was just okay technically, but the audiences always really liked me. And I just knew how to communicate and to express something and to make this kind of abstract art form means something. I don't know if that translates, like that I would always know that I was expressing an emotion. I would pick something and I would just push that forward in the dance, right? And I moved out to LA when I was dating Dennis Hopper, and I guess we were engaged and I was pregnant, so a little further down the line. But the idea had been, I don't have to do all that that corporate dancing, classical ballet anymore. I can now afford to do more experimental stuff. And everything in LA was really behind the scenes, behind the times of what was going on in New York. It just really lagged creatively from what was going on in New York. So there wasn't really much here that I wanted to explore. I really didn't know what my next move was going to be. And I was 9 months pregnant with Henry, and I saw a documentary about Sandy Meisner one night, just laid in bed. It was a documentary that Sidney Pollack had made. And I knew from the minute I watched that I wanted to do what he was doing. More than watching Dennis act, more than watching movies. I just thought, what he's doing, I need to go there and learn how to do what he's doing. He made acting make sense to me in that video. It seemed like something esoteric that I didn't know what it was. Like, I didn't know what's the art of acting? Like, what makes good acting? Like, how do you go about it? Like, I didn't understand any of that. And I understood it and I wanted it from watching him. And so someone said, well, call Sidney Pollack's office. He'll, he knows where to find him. And so I got his number. Dennis got the number of the office. And Sidney Pollack called me back and he told me where to find Sandy and who to call. I had to call this guy Jimmy, make an appointment to see Sandy. I've never done anything. I had a fashion shot with like an 80s, like kooky hat that had a flower on it. And I looked kind of like a witch. And that was the headshot that I brought. And he said, what have you done? And he, Sandy had his vocal cords removed. So he spoke on the burp. He would swallow air and speak. So he's like, what have you done? And I said, nothing. And he says, nothing. I forgot this part. Dennis had said, you have to tell him though. You have to tell him this being in this class is the most important thing to you and that you want it more than anything in the world. So I said, no, nothing. I said, and then I would go, but being in this class is the most important thing to me. And I want it more than anything in the world. And he took me. And I think we both enjoyed it very much. I loved him. And I think he really liked me. It was just a great time. So I studied with him for 2.5 years. And that's how I became an actor.
You mentioned your first husband, the late, great Dennis Hopper.
Yep.
Husband number 2 was the phenomenally funny French Stewart. And husband number 3 is Grant Show. You've only been married to actors.
Yes.
One, is that hard? And 2, why? Like, didn't you ever want to marry some other kinds of people? Didn't you ever want to meet a nice lawyer and just settle down?
People that aren't creatives, I think, feel like guys with bad shoes. It's like that. Like, what are you? They almost feel like a different species. I just think I'm really interested in artists. We've been living in Georgia recently, and I loved it. And I love how kind everyone is and polite and family oriented and it's beautiful. But I think I miss living in a town where most of the people are creative, and that just is really exciting to me. So yeah, I mean, I met Dennis. Met Dennis when I was a ballet dancer, and he collected modern art. And the guy that did all of our sets and costumes, the boyfriend of the choreographer, was a very famous painter. And so Doug Kramer, who used to produce The Love Boat, had a huge art collection. And so he had a party for David Sally, who was doing the backdrops and the costumes design for the ballet. And Carol Armitage was the choreographer that I was working with. So he had a party for them. And then he invited all the important people in the art world in LA. One of them was Dennis, who was a major collector for anyone that knows that about him. So I was going to go sit at this other table. And our publicist for the ballet said, oh, you don't want to sit over there. She says, why don't you sit next to Dennis Hopper? And I didn't know who that was. And so I didn't know what direct a movie meant. It was at Spago. And I was really poor. And I was wearing a little, like an Indian boy's outfit that I'd bought at a market in Paris. So I was always trying to look chic, like with no dollars. So I had these velvet slippers and this Indian boy's outfit, and I was sitting next to Dennis Hopper. And he asked me some questions about myself. And he had this date that I thought was serious, right? And he got up to use the restroom, and they came and took our orders, and she ordered him fish. And he got back, and Dennis really only ate beef. He didn't eat chicken. And he didn't eat fish. And because he used to have to kill chickens when he grew up on a farm. And he didn't like fish for whatever reason. And so he said, no, he was kind of irritated with her. And he needed to get the waiter back. And she said, oh, I thought you might like more fish in your diet. And it was really kind of weird. And I was like, I don't know what's going on with these people. But like, I don't need to get into any of this. And so later I found out that it was someone that worked at his agency. He didn't have a date. He worked at CAA. So he invited someone working at CAA to be his date. She went on to marry somebody and have a baby, like in tandem with Dennis and I getting married and having a baby. And her kid and Henry, mine and Dennis's sons, are friends. And she was on our first date. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, so he asked me out. And the next day, left a message. This was before anyone had a cell phone. Left a message at my hotel. And then he took me out, and it kind of went from there. When I got to New York off the tour, he was there to meet me. He was recording an album with Miles Davis. And he was recording the Colors album. That's what he was doing. He's working on the Colors album. He was in New York working on that.
By the way, is Grant going to be mad at me because your other two husbands either got a rhyme or an alliteration? And I just said, now you're married to Grant Show. Like, I feel like I didn't give him his props. Like, he needs an adjective. So, but like, what can you say about Grant? How long have you guys been married now? I remember your wedding. It was in the woods, and it was so romantic. It was so beautiful and romantic.
I think that's funny. That was my requirement, that I wanted to get married in a twinkly forest.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, Twinkly Forest.
That's exactly what it was.
I'm a big hiker, and I really like nature, so Twinkly Forest was important. We've been married, I was just thinking, I think this August it's 13 years. Yeah. Wow. He's very smart. So when I broke up with French, I was with French about 14 years. Let's hope I make it to 15 now. I was with French about 14 years, and I dated for a little while that one guy that nobody wanted to marry, that guy.
He who shall not be named. He who shall not be named.
The Rolfer.
Let's just see. He was
the Lothario Rolfer.
He was a lovely. He was pleasant enough. I'll just leave it at that. He was pleasant enough.
Anyway, so when we were finished, someone said, "What are you looking for?" They wanted to set me up, and I said, "I want a sexy nerd." And I got just that in Grant Show.
Grant is wonderful, and you two have just a delightful daughter. She is such a delight. She is young. She's 11. And I have to say, one of the things that really strikes me about her is that she's so bright-eyed. She really has retained this childlike curiosity, which even for kids that are as young as 11 is sometimes gone far too soon. How do you maintain that? How do you keep her a kid in a world and in a culture, I think, which is really forcing some of our young people to grow up too fast?
We are really struggling with that balance, with the phone and everything. Like don't give her a phone. We're not giving her a device. No personal device yet. And it's really a struggle to figure out how you don't make them a social pariah at the same time. I just say to her, the phone is not a life. I want you to be out living life. Look, your life is not inside the phone. And you're never going to get another childhood. Like, this is your childhood. So she's actually going to spend 3 weeks at Camp Greystone, where she's gone to the 1-week camp before, which is where I went to camp. And it's so delightful. And there's no phones. And they're just out like canoeing and, making beads and doing fencing and, wonderful in the mountains of North Carolina. So that's the one thing that we really focus on. But I take her on hikes and we try to keep her other interests up. She does a lot of dancing and she likes acting and dancing and singing, no surprise. But so then she takes piano. So we make her do all these things. She probably just wants to be on stage, So I'm like, well, if you want to do that, then you have to take ballet. And if you want to sing, you have to do the piano. So she does piano, singing, dancing, acting.
She swims.
She swims. She's going to go to a school that has fencing. They have fencing at Camp Greystone. So she's going to get a little ahead of the curve this summer, I hope, with some fencing.
That's so. I actually want to learn to fence. Maybe she can teach me. What do you like to do?
I think it's really hard for kids these days. It's surprising how much pressure they feel to be cool and how kind of sadly mean they are, to one another. And I wish it would be okay for kids to just be kids, because it is one of the things that I really like about her. Is that she's childlike, that she's not so cool. And I think they are already at 11 feeling like they have to be cool. And
like they have to be like, a little cynical and a little,
They have to go to Sephora,
Yeah. What do you like to do? I mean, here's something. I'm going to tell a story. So something that folks may not know you is that you are like a badass poker player. Like, Katherine, when she shows up to play, she did not come to play. And the
thing is, I'm really not, Tanya. I think just the people that don't play poker, they think I do play poker and I will go to Vegas and play poker.
So I'm a novice. I'm like a baby novice poker player, although I'm good at some other cards. But so Katherine and I were in Vegas for a friend's birthday one weekend. And so, at some point we're all kind of doing our own thing. Like, when I lost my $100 at the blackjack table, I'm good. Like I'm done with the gamble. So I wander over to the poker area where I see my friend Katherine at the table, like nothing but guys at the table, and they all look mildly pissed. And she's sitting there and folks, for those of you who only know Katherine as Nurse Dana with the black eye, you may not have an appreciation for how stunningly gorgeous she is. So she's sitting at the table, like looking like super like fire with all these guys who are looking mad. And she's got a pile of chips so high, like, she can barely see over them. Like, you walk toward the table and I just saw some legs. And then I was like, oh, that's my girl behind the chips. So what else do you like to do? What do you do for fun?
I hike a lot. I really like to hike. I think it's really de-stressing. There's this thing, the Japanese, I think they call it foresting or something.
Grounding. Grounding? Like when you put your feet on the ground? A forest bath, like a forest bath?
Forest bathing. They call it forest bathing. And it's supposed to help you make more T cells, killer T cells, which are these super cells that are, I don't know if they're a form of white blood cells or they're their own thing, but they're like more than white blood cells. They're super cancer fighting. There's all this scientific data about how walking in the forest helps you. I mean, I just feel better. So I do a lot of that. I do yoga. I do a lot of yoga right now. Maybe that'll change. But I think hiking, yoga. I love to swim in the ocean. I love the ocean. And I like pickleball. I'm just okay at it. It's a little hard to play pickleball in West Hollywood. They're very competitive. They're very not happy with you. You go to play open pickleball, they're very mad if they get teamed with you and you're not very good or you're not as good as them. It's super competitive. And so I was playing
That
last year
sounds
while I was
rough.
here. And when I was out in LA, and after a while I started to think like, I didn't want to go. And I love pickleball. Like I would play pickleball all the time. And I realized because I was feeling bad about myself every time I went to play pickleball. They were so serious about it. And I was in this like, what was it called? Like a clinic. And we were working on some stuff. And this girl was talking about her coach. And she says like a pickleball coach. I'm like, it's too much.
It's so much. I've played a couple of times. I'm not very good, but like for a game with such a silly name and like now, right? Like you don't think like
they're whacking a ball at your face, and I'm like, I'm on TV.
Oh, Katherine, you mentioned that you're moving back to Los Angeles.
Yes.
From Georgia, and you're in Los Angeles right now, as I understand it. How are you enjoying it? You like the accommodations?
I have very good accommodations. I was, going to be moving into a new place, and then I don't know, my they went to put the new toilet in, and they found out that like the whole bathroom floor was rotten, so they just demoed the bathroom floor. So I'm staying with their friend. Hold on, I'll be right back. Hang on.
Sure. You have to go.
I hear something. 1 second.
Oh, sure thing. She'll be right back, everybody. I think she just has to deal with her friend.
3, 2, 1. I'm trying to do a podcast.
I really will. I'll keep it down, lady. I'm going to keep it down. I'll keep it down. I'm going to keep it down.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Love you.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, baby. Yeah. I really, in real life, I love this lady.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
Yeah.